Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Here's your host, Morgan Colby and Rick Lemon.
Oh boy. Welcome to the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. I don't know what it is today. I'm feeling fantasy football is what I'm feeling.
It's a nice rainy day, maybe.
Of course, it's April 9th, so we got a long way to go before we get to watch any form of football. Oh, but I love looking at statistics. I spent a chunk of time today studying Damian Williams.
How most people spend their day off.
Yeah. Reading about Damian Williams. It is Thursday, April 9th. My name is Morgan Colby. I got Rick Lemon on a phone call per usual. And we got a lot to get to in this episode. We're going to discuss wide receiver rankings, part 2. We're going to rank 13 through 24 in this episode. It's going to be relatively interesting. Before we get to our main segment, we have a quick question. Before we get into that question, though, check out our website at thefantasychampions.com. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram, at the FF Champs on Twitter, at the Fantasy Champions on Instagram. Follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/the Fantasy Champions. Subscribe wherever you listen, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, all those platforms. You can find us anywhere, really. And then leave a review. I saw that a few kind people left some reviews. So continue leaving reviews, my friends, because it means a lot to our heart and soul and the SEO of this podcast.
Now, I think you've gotten a lot better at that because before you used to be like, but you actually
slowed it down.
Yeah,
slowed it down so people could hear it.
Yeah. Well
so let's do a quick question because
sure,
there's no news. There's no news around this league anymore. Should you remove the kicker position from your league? Now, I just want to preface this question. I think it was PFF that posted about this fantasy football. I think they posted not about this particular thing, but about they asked the question, what rules does your league have that are completely ridiculous and that shouldn't be rules in your league? Obviously, Vito took the cake, but one of the things that people were really interested in was this kicker position. I'm curious to see how many leagues actually still have kickers in them. To be honest with you, the amount of hate that kickers got in this little discussion. So, should you remove kickers from your league?
I didn't realize
kickers people too.
Yeah, kickers are people, but to me, it's not like a big deal. I could do with or without with kickers.
Yeah.
So it really doesn't matter to me. It's kind of a personal preference thing. I do kind of like it sometimes because it's like a little nuisance, which is probably why you don't like it. It's the opposite. But I like it because it can piss people off like that. And
wow.
I'm just like, yeah, I know. It's
fantasy football.
The hatred.
What can you say?
Yeah.
What can you say?
I know you probably have a lot stronger opinions on this.
Listen, I've lost so many freaking fantasy championships on kickers' foots, and I'm sick of it. The rage inside me towards the kicker position is way too much.
I think it's uncalled for, actually.
I honestly think the kicker position is it to me. A lot of people say, "Oh, all fantasy football is just luck." If you're listening to this podcast, you obviously know fantasy football takes preparation, right? Preparation, work, time, all that stuff. And you know what I mean? You have to prepare for your actual freaking draft instead of just winging it. Draft night, folks. But for me, I have a quick question for you, Rick. What position has the least amount of impact in prediction?
That would probably be kicker.
Yeah, so you can't predict the kicker position. No one ever knows what's going on. You can do your best. I've tried multiple different ways. I've used
defense can be pretty unpredictable.
Defense is very unpredictable, but it's slightly predictable based on matchup. Like kickers, there's just no matchup. Sure. It's like you throw darts at the wall and hope something hits the center of the dartboard. So for me, like I've tried to go to Vegas. tried to look at Vegas odds, look at the over-unders, figure out if this is going to be a game where kickers are very involved. That didn't work. I tried to just go by offense. Usually, you know, the highest scoring offense in the league usually has a very good kicker.
Sure.
That doesn't work either. It works kind of. And then I tried, you know, you generally the thought process is streaming kickers, right? And how can you stream a position you can't predict?
Right.
So for me, I would say no kickers. Get them out of your league. See you later.
Who
needs them?
You should try.
I already tried.
No. Try red zone defense.
Red zone defense?
So or the opponent's red zone defense.
Hold on a second. I don't know if I've heard of this before.
Okay, so
fine. Maybe
if the team has the top red zone defense, the offensive team will probably get stuck in the red zone and won't be able to score a touchdown, which will lead them to kick a field goal. You could try that.
That's interesting.
I don't know if that would work at all.
There's got to be a stat. There's got to be a stat. I just think kickers have sometimes they have way too much of an impact on games when you're sitting here trying to figure out. You're analyzing
personal experience.
You're analyzing, yeah. You're analyzing, you know, all kinds of fantasy points. You're talking about, you know, what a guy can do and what he can't do. You know, I can predict the running back position somewhat, the wide receiver position, the quarterback position, tight end, even defense to some extent. But kicker, man, that's an honest to God luck position. And I try to make it so that, you know, my whole fantasy week doesn't rely on the stupid kicker position, but sometimes it does.
Yeah.
But if you just get rid of it, then
or you could just crush your team by 20 plus points and don't have to worry about it.
That's very true. Put the super team in it. I obviously have bitter emotions towards the kicker. They are people, but they don't help me at all. They are debatable. So before we waste any more time on kickers, let's move into our wide receiver rankings part 2. We're gonna talk about some players twice today, just because of how the rankings played out in me and Rick's situation here. But we won't spend too long on some of these guys. So I'll start with my 13th guy that we talked a little bit about on the last program. My 13th guy is Juju Smith-Schuster. You had him 11th?
Yeah.
So obviously you explained why you had him up that high on the previous show. I'm not too far. We're not going to spend a lot of time on Juju, but sure. I have him 13 just because I'm a little bit burned. Spent a lot of trade capital to get him last year because I love him.
Yeah.
And it didn't work out. I'm also concerned about Big Ben's arm and his effect. What did he tear a ligament in his elbow? That's never a good sign for a 40-year-old.
Yeah.
39, 37. What is his age?
He's old. Yeah, I think he's 38, 39.
But anyway, that's not a good sign for a quarterback who has an injury. So I think that Juju is going to be good. But last year, I've come a long way from saying Juju's going to be a top 5 receiver to now. Yeah. I have him ranked 13. I think he's going to be good this year. I think he's going to be a lot better than people suspect. I do want to give his ADP. I don't know if I did it on the last show. Let me just.
I think he could be higher with a better quarterback, but I do agree with the Roethlisberger point. I still think Roethlisberger with one arm would be better than Mason
anybody
Rudolph,
that they had last year.
Yeah, but he's still not good enough for Juju to be. I think for me to put Juju in the top 10.
Yeah, Juju definitely right now is in the 7th round.
Yeah,
so
which I would gladly take him in the 7th round.
I don't know what the consensus is. I'm not going to pull it up, but anyway. So
I think it was like 14. It was like it wasn't too.
Oh, really?
Too far off from
Yeah, so I think 13 is a safe kind of place to put him. I think he can be a wide receiver 1, and if he performs like he did in previous years with Antonio Brown and Big Ben doesn't really have any arm issues, I think that you're going to see Juju probably ascend higher than that. I still have the same feels on Juju, but I just can't. I can't move him up because of the risks. I think there's a lot more players that are going to be safer bets than Juju Smith-Schuster. So anyway, the other guy that we talked about, I just want to get the guys we talked about out of the way really quickly, is I think we talked about on the last one, Adam Thielen. You had him ranked 12th. Okay. So Thielen for me, I finished my top 24 and I put Adam Thielen 17.
Okay.
I don't know why I have him so low. Kind of hurts, actually.
It's not like, because it's not like that far off for me, and I get why you'd put him 17. He's the only guy there now, which could be a good thing, but that could also be a bad thing. Yeah, you could get double teamed on every play. So it makes sense why you would have him 17.
I think there's also a strong concern for me that last year you saw the beginning of the season, right, where Thielen was just. He and Stefan Diggs were just not being thrown to.
They were throwing the ball like 15, 16 times a game.
And if that happens again, you're talking about 5-6 targets a game for Adam Thielen. And that's not a good sign for a wide receiver. Now, they learned after 6 or 7 weeks that, hey, you know what? Maybe we should throw the football a little bit more often. But I think what they want to do is pound the ball with Dalvin Cook and who's the other guy? Alexander Mattison. And they want to run the football. That's what they want to do. And that's not going to change from this year to last year, right? Kevin Stefanski leaving is not going to change that. What was pushing that was the assistant head coach, who I believe now is the offensive coordinator for the Vikings. I don't remember his name. It's escaping me, but he was pushing that pound, ground and pound mentality. If they go back to that, Thielen's not going to have that same production value that you would want. So that's why I have him lower on my list at 17. I would like to rank him a little bit higher, and I might actually move him up. I was thinking about today. I'm like, in fantasy football, you got to weigh those pros and cons. And for me, I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, the pros of Adam Thielen are that Stefan Diggs is gone. He's always been a really good slot receiver. He can finish as a wide receiver 1, probably low end. And his ADP is not all that horrible right now. I believe it's at, let me just find it. Where are you, Thielen? 310. So his ADP is not horrible.
Yeah, that's not awful.
So it's those are the kind of the pros for Adam Thielen, but the cons are just uncertainty and lack of opportunity, I think. So for me, I'm kind of a little bit lower on Thielen than I have been in the past. And I might move him up. I don't know. Who knows? But those are the two guys we talked about on the last program. So let's talk about some different guys. I think you have some major differences in terms of where guys land. I'm higher on some guys, you're lower on some guys. So let's just break it down.
Sure.
I'll start with you have on the previous show we discussed Odell too.
Yeah.
I guess we can start quickly with Odell. Why do you have Odell at 13?
It's for similar reasons why I said in the last show. I think there's just way too many weapons there in Cleveland.
Okay.
And Baker likes to spread the ball.
Okay.
And it's not like it's not like Odell was getting a lot of the targets last year. And you add 2 tight ends because Njoku barely played. He missed like 10 games. Now you add Austin Hooper as well, who's going to get targets in that offense.
Okay.
I think there's just too many weapons for Odell. Unless Baker really starts favoriting him, which I don't see happening.
Yeah. Obviously, I love Odell. Right now, he's getting drafted in the 6th round, 5th round. So
really?
That is a low.
I'll gladly take him there.
Oh yeah, for sure. Even you're low on him, and you're like, yeah, I would. 100% take him there. I did want to hold on 1 second. I'm going to try to pull up the consensus to let you know where we were talking about Odell, right?
Yeah.
Odell is ranked. So hold on a second. In half PPR, the consensus at wide receiver is
dun.
10.
Okay.
Top tier 3. So I'm kind of in that. We're both in that same region. You're a little bit lower on them just because for obvious reasons. But yeah, I talked about him in the last show. So if you want to hear about Odell, go to the last show. And I believe there was only one. There wasn't any other guys that were in my top 10, right?
AJ Brown.
AJ Brown, and you have him where?
16.
I'm trying to see. You're a 16. Okay.
Yeah.
Reasoning.
I don't believe that Tannehill, I don't think, is going to have as good a success. I think they're going to run the ball out with Henry, and it's just a lot of big concerns with that Titans passing attack. Like I've seen it before. I know it's a different quarterback, and I would like to hope that it's going to be the same as last regular season.
Yep.
Where Tannehill goes on that run, but I don't know. So for now, I have AJ Brown 16.
Okay, sounds fair enough. So you have Odell 13. I have Juju 13. So that takes care of our 13th. 14. Cooper Kupp for me is the guy. You also have Cooper Kupp 14.
Yes. Yeah.
So we both agree. So we cannot discuss agreeing for a second. But for me, I think Cooper Kupp actually might even finish higher than where he's ranked on this particular list. I think he's a wide receiver 1. I think he's a low end wide receiver 1 at that, but he had some really good games last year. There are rumors floating around that Brandon Cooks is on the trade market. There are teams around the league that need wide receivers at this point, and I think that he's going to be shopped, and either A, they'll cut him in training camp. I think I talked about that on one of our shows. Or B, they'll get a deal done. But I don't think Brandon Cooks is going to be a Ram next year. So that opens up target share for Cooper Kupp even more. And I think when you saw there was only 2 wide receivers there, Cooper Kupp got a lot of opportunity. He got a lot of work. And so I think for me, he gets a large pat on the back for getting more opportunity. But I think he's going to have a relatively decent year this year. I think he finished. Where did you finish Cooper Kupp last year? He finished at number 4. So he's not going to finish the number 4 wide receiver, but I think he's going to finish 8, 9, kind of where Keenan Allen was last year.
Yeah.
I think that's a safer bet, but nothing really changed in that offense besides Todd Gurley leaving. And is Todd Gurley really that much of an effect on what they did last year? No. So.
Yeah, no, I pretty much agree with what you said. I mean, Cooper Kupp was a legit top 7 wide receiver last year in fantasy, and I don't really see too much changing in that offense other than losing Todd Gurley, which it doesn't help a lot. But it's like the passing game; it's not going to change too much. And Kupp is still Jared Goff's security blanket, and he's still the main guy in that Rams offense.
Yeah. Right now, his ADP is, by the way. Excuse me. His ADP is. Where are you, Thielen? Did I already say it?
Cooper Kupp.
Cooper Kupp. I'm sorry. I put them in the same box for some reason. So Cooper Kupp is 211, which is concerning.
That's
211 is the 9th wide receiver off the board. So at 14. For us, we're kind of looking at if he's on the board as the 14th wide receiver, which now, if you were to match up the ADP with that, that's around back end, this late 3rd, early 4th and 12 team. So I'm thinking that Cooper Kupp is probably going to be a guy, at least if you're following our rankings and our draft information, you're probably not going to end up with. Because we have him ranked a little bit lower. But like for me, if he's there in the late 3rd, early 4th, I'm okay with that. But if you're taking him in the 2nd round, that's very risky to me.
Yeah. I gotta agree with you on that one. That's a little too high, but I mean, it's not like too far off from where we have him.
Yeah. So the next guy, at least we'll talk about the next guy, Stefon Diggs. I have Diggs 15. His consensus is I believe. Where are you, Stefan? His consensus is 21. So that's
actually lower than
you have him.
I sent you the wrong list, by the way. So the one you're looking at, I'll resend it to you.
Okay,
I have him 19. It's not too far off.
Okay. You have him 19 is what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, yours is not too off from the consensus. I have him 15.
Is it your love for Diggs?
You know what? I've talked about Diggs before, and I've said that Stefon Diggs happens to be the guy that I keep drafting by accident.
It's going to happen again.
I don't know if you guys, if you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment below if you have any guys that you draft by accident every single year. But I always end up with Stefan Diggs. I actually really love the landing spot for Stefan Diggs. I think a lot of people are probably a little bit skeptical about the Bills being a landing spot and how effective he's going to be as a wide receiver. And the statistics that I will reference are the ones that you got out of John Brown, who went to Buffalo last year. He was a wide receiver 20, and he's not nearly as talented as Stefan Diggs. So I think what you're going to get out of Diggs this year is a much higher, more talented production for because John Brown is still there, right? Am I correct on that?
Yeah, he is. Yep.
Okay, so yeah, you're gonna get a lot more targets, and you're gonna get a lot more production out of Stefan Diggs in Buffalo. And I think that I'm a little bit higher on him. I think he'll finish at mid-range wide receiver 2. He usually finishes on the edge of 12. Between 12 and 14 is where he usually is. Sometimes he's up towards the 10 area, but
do you know where he finished last year?
He finished wide receiver 20, I believe.
Okay.
Oh, Diggs?
Yeah.
Wide receiver 21, like 2 spots behind John Brown. And that was with basically no targets.
Yeah.
So I think his target share will go up in Buffalo. I think that we've talked about before how desperate they needed wide receivers. And if Josh Allen is going to be good, you need to give him some talented receivers, and he has that. So I think there's a good chance that Stefan Diggs has a really good year. That's why I have him at 15. Why do you have him a little bit lower at 20, 19?
I have 19.
Okay.
19, yeah.
19. So.
For me, like I love the move for the Bills. Like I like Stefan Diggs. I think fantasy-wise he'll be good, but I think it is going to be similar to last year. He's going to get more targets.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's going to be a crazy amount because John Brown is still there. Cole Beasley is still there. Right. They're going to run the ball with Devin Singletary. And it's not like Josh Allen. I don't think – like I like Josh Allen fantasy-wise, but I don't think he's going to throw for like 40 touchdowns and 5,000 yards. Like I just don't see Stephon – I mean, there's a chance if they really focus on him and make him be the guy in that offense and they run a lot of plays for him and give him a large amount of targets that he will be a top 10 fantasy wide receiver. But like, I don't really see him getting enough action. Like he'll have big weeks. So I think it's similar to last year with Minnesota. I think he'll have big weeks where he'll make a couple big plays. Yeah. And he'll get like a 25-point week. And then the next week, Josh Allen will stink and throw the ball like 20-something times. And he'll only get fantasy points by running the ball. And Diggs will get like 3 catches for 30 yards. Right. Like I think there'll be a lot of that going on this season for Diggs. So it's not really why I would. That's why I don't really want him on my team unless he's going to fall in the draft.
So John Brown had a total of 115 targets last year. And Stefan Diggs had 96, and they finished at the same area, kind of 183 last year for Stefan Diggs, and 183 for John Brown and 180 for Stefan Diggs. So there is a real reality for me here where if you give Stefan Diggs 120 targets, which is not unrealistic from what he had in the past in like 2018, he's going to produce a lot better than John Brown, just because he's more talented. So for me, I think if he does hit that 120 target threshold, he does become a wide receiver 1. Right now he's getting drafted at, I believe it's 404, which is the 17th wide receiver off the board. So for me, the value is there for Stefan Diggs. You're a little bit, like I said, you're a little bit lower on him, so it's a little bit of a reach for you. But for me, I think that's probably a great place to get Diggs. Really, every year you get Diggs in that round.
You always regret it.
Yeah, it's true. But I think the location changes, and I think it changes what Stefan Diggs can do, because I think you talked about what the Vikings always did, and I like. Do you think who's a better quarterback, Kirk Cousins or Josh Allen?
So I was going to ask you this. Like, I would rather have Josh Allen on my team, and I'd rather have Josh Allen on my fantasy team. But when it comes to like just strictly throwing the football and not talent wise, but just like accuracy and everything like that, I don't think there's much of a difference between Kirk Cousins and Josh Allen.
Okay. Fair enough. Yeah, just a little bit higher on him. Let's talk about we'll talk about my number 16th guy. You had AJ Brown, which we already discussed. Mm-hmm. I have Calvin Ridley, and I'm a lot higher on Calvin Ridley. You have him 18?
Yeah, it's only 2 spots down.
Okay. That is actually consensus, I believe. Calvin Ridley is 20 right now, consensus. So you're pretty close to the consensus. I'm a little, like I said, higher on Calvin Ridley.
I'm the bridge.
Yeah. You're safer. I'm a little more risky. I love Calvin Ridley. I think he's going to be a stud this year. I think this year is the year you start to see a transition from Julio Jones to Calvin Ridley. He's a favorite in the red zone for some reason for Matt Ryan. And I think you're going to see Calvin Ridley. See, they pass the ball an absurd amount.
They do.
And when you look at Calvin Ridley, I think like you still saw like Julio Jones get like 150 plus targets last year, but you still saw around 100 for Calvin Ridley. So if that starts to shift in Ridley's direction where he can, and he only played 13 games too, by the way. So he was getting about 7 targets a game. So if you see that increase to about maybe 8.5 to 9 targets a game, which is like a 1.5, target per game difference, you're going to see him finish right around the region of 130 or 125 to 130, which I think is a great range for Calvin Ridley. And because of his high ceiling when it comes to touchdowns, I think Ridley could actually finish as a low end wide receiver 1 instead of a low end wide receiver 2. So I have him in the middle range of wide receiver 2 just for safety. Right now he's at 407, which is the wide receiver 20. The 20th wide receiver off the board, I should say. So I think that's a good place to get Calvin Ridley. I think you look at Diggs. Diggs he's not an old man by any stretch of the imagination. He's 26 years old, but Calvin Ridley is younger. He hasn't broken out yet. He hasn't had that big season yet, and this is his 3rd year. Wide receivers usually break out in their 2nd or 3rd years. So I think you could see a big season for Calvin Ridley, and especially without Austin Hooper there and them not really finding a huge replacement at tight end. I think you'll see Calvin Ridley perform a lot better than where he's being ranked right now, and I think the value is there for Calvin Ridley as well.
Yeah, the value is absolutely there. I mean, he's somebody who could fly up boards too, I think.
Yeah.
Calvin Ridley, like you made a lot of good points. Like they throw the ball a lot. Austin Hooper's not there, and he's already one of the red zone favorites. I mean, before he got injured last year, he was on pace of having a better season than he did the year before. Right. Now there's less targets there. Mohamed Sanu was there in the beginning of the season. I do think Calvin Ridley's got a lot of potential this year, which is why I have him a little higher. You have him a lot higher. You made the risk, but I think that's one that could definitely pay off because I think Calvin Ridley could definitely have a big year.
I think the wide receiver position is one of those positions where you can take risks. Like running backs, you take a risk and you can get burnt on it. But the wide receiver position, taking risks can pay off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think for me, Calvin Ridley is a great risk. Like if DJ Moore is not on the board in the 4th round for you, you know what I mean? You could definitely take a Calvin Ridley there.
The only reason I don't have Ridley, I think, higher on this list is because all the guys I have ahead of him are clear-cut number 1 guys in their offense.
Okay.
And I'm confident they're going to get a lot of targets. Yeah. I am confident Calvin Ridley is going to get a lot of targets, but I still think Julio is the guy. Okay. And he's the security blanket for Matt Ryan.
You just love Julio.
I do.
So my 17 was Adam Thielen. Your 17 is Courtland Sutton. So let's talk about Courtland Sutton a little bit because I have Courtland Sutton 21.
Okay.
And I think for me, Sutton is. I like Sutton. I like him a lot. I liked him before other people liked him.
You did.
But I have a hard time believing that the rookie quarterback, or not rookie quarterback, 2nd-year quarterback Drew Lock is going to be able to get Courtland Sutton a mass amount of fantasy points next year. I think that offense is okay. They're not great. The addition of Melvin Gordon is a good one.
Definitely helps. Yeah.
Definitely helps. I think, you know what I mean? They don't really have any other receivers besides Cortland Sutton and who's that other guy? Can't remember the slot receiver.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, I can't remember his name, but anyway,
yeah.
Cortland Sutton's really the only wide receiver option in Denver left. So yes, they're probably going to force him the ball, but that also means that he's gonna be facing the Stephen Gilmores of the world, and can he hold up and perform fantasy wise with those guys across from him? I don't know. But I think Cortland Sutton, he's extremely talented. I really like him. I'm a lot lower on him just because of the uncertainty surrounding that entire team. New offensive system, the quarterback, he's changing offensive systems. He's just starting out, and the offense is just a lot of question marks. So I'm not ready to put all my eggs in the Cortland Sutton basket just yet. And right now he's going at 304. So
that is high. Like that, the place where he's going is definitely high. But what I'll say about Cortland Sutton, why I really like him, I have him number 17.
Yeah.
I think it also helps.
He was 19 last year, by the way, 186 fantasy points, 19th in
Yeah.
fantasy. Sorry. I just want to let you know.
No, you're fine. I think, first of all, I think I like Drew Lock a little bit more than you.
Yeah.
I do think he's like a franchise. I don't know if he will be, but I think he has the ability to be a franchise level quarterback.
Yeah.
And with Cortland Sutton there, who every year he has improved. It's only been 2 years, but his rookie season he was decent, and we talked about him. And then his second year he blew up. He had that one-handed catch, which was ridiculous. And now it's year 3, which is a big breakout year for receivers. You're right. He kind of is the only guy in that offense, but again, he's Drew Lock's go-to guy as well because of that.
Right.
He's going to get a lot of targets. The offense isn't great, but it's not awful either. It's gotten a lot better. Mm-hmm. If they add offensive line, maybe in the draft, or maybe a second receiver as well, they can improve on that. They have a good young tight end as well.
Yeah.
I just like Cortland Sutton, and I like the direction that it's going for him. And if Drew Lock is halfway decent, Cortland Sutton might even be higher than number 17.
Yeah, you're probably right. I mean, he's extremely talented. He scored fantasy points against some of the best corners in the league last year. Yeah. So
he was the number one guy in the offense with nobody around him last year,
and he had a worse quarterback. He had 126 targets. Yeah. For me, I think a lot of these wide receiver twos that we're talking about, Cooper Kupp, Stefon Diggs, Calvin Ridley, Adam Thielen, Juju Smith-Schuster, Odell Beckham, a lot of these guys that are getting ranked between 13 and 17 or 18 are guys that you look at as, guys that can and may finish as wide receiver ones, but you don't really see them having that boom. Okay, I'm going to finish as a wide receiver one, top 3 guys. So, but I think there are some guys I think there's definitely breakout potential there with Cortland Sutton.
For sure.
In that conversation with Calvin Ridley. For me, I'm staying away from Cortland Sutton personally, just because of, I don't think last year I had 126 targets. I don't think that's going to grow. I don't think it's going to exceed. I don't think he's going to exceed that 126 target mark. When did Drew Lock take over?
It was week 13.
Week 13. Okay. So from week 13 to week 17, he had 5 targets, 7 targets, 10 targets, 10 targets, 8 targets. So I like the 10 target games in week 15 and 16 and the 7 target game against Houston week 14, but and the 8 target game. So at the last 4 games of the season, I mean, he was targeted a lot. But we got to see the production. I mean, he didn't catch a touchdown in any one of those games.
I think he got 2 touchdowns in the game that he only had a few
5 targets. Yeah, he had 2 touchdown catches and 4 red zone targets. 4 catches. So
I don't think anyone in Denver they didn't really. Noah Fant actually had a big game in one of those. But
yeah.
They weren't like they were scoring a lot of touchdowns anyway.
Yeah, I think I think that there's a reality for Cortland Sutton. I don't like where he's getting drafted, to be honest with you. It has nothing really to do with Cortland Sutton. It's just that he's 310.
I don't like that spot for him either.
I mean, let's what did I say? 310. Hey,
if he was going
304,
like fifth, sixth round, I would love him at that spot.
Yeah.
Because I think he's got a lot of upside.
He kind of reminds me a little bit of what Chris Godwin was last year.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good thing. But Godwin was way, 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 way over where I wanted to take him.
Because there was a lot of hype for him.
And a lot of hype.
He kept moving up on boards, and we're like, okay.
And Cortland Sutton is in the same area.
Yeah.
I mean, he has all the makings to be a top end receiver in this league. It's just, I think for me, it really is offensive line and quarterback are the real questions. Like, is this team going to be good offensively? Can Drew Lock be a good quarterback? Can they move the ball? Because for me, the difference at wide receiver a lot of the time is, unless you're Julio Jones, unless your name is Julio Jones and you play for the freaking Atlanta Falcons, your yardage really isn't going to be a massive indicator for your fantasy points in fantasy football, right? Or yardage at the wide receiver position isn't really going to drive your fantasy numbers. It's really going to be touchdowns. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of wide receivers that finish in the top, 15 are guys that really blow up in terms of, touchdowns when they have their breakout year. I mean, Chris Godwin, I think, caught 15, 16, 17 touchdowns last year. So can Cortland Sutton, do the Denver Broncos get in the red zone enough for Cortland Sutton to score enough touchdowns to get him into that conversation of being a high end, wide receiver one? I don't know.
Yeah, it's that is the biggest risk with Cortland Sutton.
And if you're drafting him at 304,
I think that's too high.
You're ripping your pants off and saying I'm all in. And it's like,
I'm all in, and I'm not doing that.
The biggest thing with drafting that people need to understand is that, the higher your draft pick is, the more risk it carries. So if you are drafting in the first, second, or third round and you're wasting draft picks on guys that you believe in, then you're playing fantasy football wrong. You got to go after guys in the first 3 or 4 rounds that you like and that you believe in. But the main factor should be safety. It should be, can this guy get me? How likely is it for this guy to get me the fantasy points that I need to win fantasy games on the on the onset of the season and later in the season, right? So you kind of take the safer guys in the riskier rounds and then take the riskier guys in the safer rounds. You know what I mean? That's a relatively good strategy. Sometimes you have to rip your pants off and take a big risk. But quit taking Cortland Sutton early in the third round, late in the second is not a wise, calculated risk.
No, definitely not.
I don't like that. Cortland Sutton, I love you, but I don't like that. So I have him 21. He might move up. I don't really like that I have him behind Devontae Parker at this point, and I might move him up. Or Allen Robinson either. Or Keenan Allen. Might move him up 3 spots, 4 spots, but we'll see. These are preliminary rankings, by the way. When I start doing, after the NFL draft, I dive deep into wide receiver numbers.
Oh, yeah. And the biggest rankings, I think, are done in
once you have questions to some of the answers that you have, you know what I mean, about certain players. Is he the only guy on the roster? Whatever it is, you start to get a clearer picture of this. So these are very preliminary. These are April rankings. If you're drafting using our April rankings, you've got issues.
Yeah.
But anyway, so let's talk about, we got a bunch of guys to get into. I had Thielen 17, and then you had Cortland Sutton 17. I have Keenan Allen 18. So we can talk about Keenan Allen. You have Keenan Allen 22.
Yeah.
So I'm with you. I'm with you on Keenan Allen.
I even wanted to put him lower. I think
it's so gross.
I wanted to put him lower.
You know what? They don't have a quarterback. They don't have anything offensively, really. Like, they have Austin Eckler, and that's it.
They still have Hunter Henry.
Oh, and they got Hunter Henry. That's good.
And Mike Williams.
And that offensive line's still decent.
Yeah, they have weapons.
You know who their quarterback is?
It's Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah, no. Sorry. Keenan Allen, move him down the board.
If they draft Justin Herbert, he might go up a little bit, but even then, it's a rookie quarterback. How good is he going to be?
Right.
And rookie quarterbacks usually don't throw to one guy. Like,
and Rivers
quarterbacks throw the ball around.
Right. Rivers went to the slot position a lot.
Exactly. That is another thing too. Phillip Rivers loves checkdowns. He doesn't throw the ball deep down the field, which is perfect for Keenan Allen and a slot guy. And if they draft Justin Herbert, he's he's going to look for big plays as well. I mean, he's obviously he's going to be kind of conservative about it, but
they've sounded like they're very, very hard on Tyrod right now.
Yeah, and if that's the case, you think Tyrod Taylor is going to give the ball
no
a ton? Like,
no way.
I don't either.
Keenan Allen, and the other gross part about it, are we talking about an early bust candidate? Let's go.
Yeah, I think so.
Keenan Allen right now is going off the board at 306. Good luck, fantasy owners, with Keenan Allen.
I don't
Good
want
luck.
that.
So I honestly, honest to God, I did not want to rank Keenan Allen 18.
Yeah,
but I mean, like Allen Robinson or Keenan Allen.
Yeah, you can debate that one. For sure.
I don't even know. So I just what Keenan Allen was with Phillip Rivers and what Keenan Allen is now are going to be two different things. And I think what people love about Keenan Allen and loved about him last year, you're just not going to get out of him. Players coming out of college are not check down guys anymore. They're slingers.
No. Yeah.
These are people that watched Patrick Mahomes the last 2 years and said, "Oh God, we need to do that." Or Lamar Jackson last year even, and
even if they might draft Justin Herbert and just go with Tyrod Taylor, which is I think what it sounds like. Which would Tyrod Taylor? I mean, who knows? Maybe he could be decent, but I don't think if Tyrod Taylor is going to be good, it's going to be running the football.
It's freaking true.
He's going to be like a Lamar, a poor man's Lamar,
yeah,
which is not good for Keenan Allen.
Right. Yeah, I don't like Keenan Allen. I think we can both agree on that.
Yeah, I don't either.
I love Keenan Allen as like a player for the longest time.
Yeah, just not.
But anyway, so number 19, I have Allen Robinson on my, what did I say it was? 19? Allen Robinson on my list. You have A-Rob at 20, so we're not too far off on those guys. I like Allen Robinson. I really do. Do you know what I hate? The Bears.
Yep.
Mitch Trubisky, Nick Foles. Ugh. That's gross, dude. That whole situation's kind of gross.
The problem is,
and I'm forced to rank Allen Robinson at 19, which is the horrible part.
It's because he's good and he's gonna get touchdowns and he's gonna get a lot of catches. But if he just was in a better situation, like you put him on the Eagles, maybe where he's like the number one guy.
He's a monster.
He might be a top 12 guy on this list.
Like, bro, you watched Allen Robinson? I watched the Bears because I wanted to see Montgomery, but you watched Allen Robinson last year, right?
That was his best year of his career,
good.
Too.
He is such a good player. And the fact that he has to get balls thrown to him from Mitch Trubisky is so unfortunate.
I know, it's awful.
Like I want to watch him on a team with an actual freaking quarterback.
Foles could be a little better. I mean, I don't think he'll be much better, but all
you got to do is look at the Jaguars.
Yeah.
How'd that turn out for Chark?
It made him worse.
Yeah. So I don't like Allen Robinson this year either. I think he's good. I kind of put Keenan Allen and Allen Robinson in the same area. I kind of see him at the same. They're
similar.
High risk, low reward kind of players. And if you can get him, like, what round would you be okay with Keenan Allen?
Oh gosh, probably like 6th.
Yeah, me too. What round would you want Allen Robinson?
Probably saying like 6th.
310 and 306 is where they're going. So get out of here with that. I'd love to know what Adam Hutchison thinks about Allen Robinson.
He loves Allen Robinson, but
I do too. I honest to God,
I do. No, I mean, especially this past season, like it opened my eye. Like some of the routes.
I was trying to tell you this in the preseason because I was watching these games, and Allen Robinson, man, he looked practices and games. It's because he just burned me so hard last year. I know.
I had him a year, 2 years ago now.
But he has like elite hands and speed, and he's just he could be a top end receiver in this league, but he's just so underutilized and utilized improperly, just like everything in the Bears offense, to be honest with you.
Yeah, pretty much.
Underutilized or poorly utilized is what I'll say. So I really, honestly, most of the Bears offense, I love David Montgomery this year. We'll probably talk about him in the future. I love David Montgomery, not this year, but in general, I love David Montgomery. I just don't like anything in the Bears offense. And I think like that even speaks true for David Montgomery. I'm like, their offense just so freaking stupidly bad. Like, it's not even like they're bad. They have so many good players. It's just they're so stupid with how they use their players that it's like, I can't rely on any of them in fantasy. Now, you can rely on Allen Robinson in fantasy this year, but does that continue next year? If they switch to Nick Foles, does that continue? I don't know. I have no idea. So much uncertainty for such a high value. I can't really take Allen Robinson. Now, if he falls to the 5th or 6th round, maybe I'll take him. I'm okay with that. But let somebody else take the risk with their 3rd round pick on Allen Robinson and sit back. So that's why I have him at 19. I actually probably like Devontae Parker more than Allen Robinson, to be honest with you, but yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Anyway, so let's talk about, I had Diggs 19. We discussed, or you had Diggs, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
you had Diggs 19.
Yeah.
I had Allen Robinson 19. At 20, I have Devontae Parker.
Sure.
And you have Devontae Parker basically swapped with my guy.
Yeah.
So you have him 15? Is that right?
I have him 15. Yeah.
Why?
So with Devontae Parker, I don't think much. It isn't confirmed, but the expectation is Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to be the starter at the beginning of the year, right? Even if they draft a quarterback.
Right.
So if you look at what Devontae Parker did last year with Ryan Fitzpatrick, he was a top, 6, 7 receiver. Did he finish 7th, I think?
Yeah, I believe it was 7.
And especially at the end of the season, he was good the whole season, but at the end, he really took it to a second gear. I don't think that would change. If Ryan Fitzpatrick is the quarterback at the beginning of the season, I think Devontae Parker is going to surprise a lot of people again. He's going to be very good. He's going to be consistent. He's going to get a lot of targets. And if they change to Tua midway through the season or the end of the season, that could definitely make it worse. But if they're switching to let's say they draft Tua, and let's say they switch to Tua halfway through the season, there's probably a reason for that. So it means Tua is a good quarterback, which could affect Parker in a positive way.
Or Fitzmagic is throwing 17 picks in a game.
That's true. But even if he is, he's probably throwing the ball a lot, which means good things for Devontae Parker.
Right.
I think Parker is getting slept on.
I love Devontae Parker. I liked him going into last year a little bit, but I wasn't super excited about the Miami Dolphins offense and how they were going to throw the football and all that stuff, and Josh Rosen and Ryan Fitzmagic, and so gross. But you were like, it took you until week 10, 11, 12, maybe 13 before we were like
week 10.
And the fact that Devontae Parker was on our freaking waiver wire show every week for 8 weeks means that everyone else was also nervous about Devontae Parker.
Right.
And then you look at him at the end of the season, and he finishes as the wide receiver 7, and you're sitting there looking at yourself going, why did I not pick that up? You know what I mean? He's good. He's very talented. I think he suffers from bad offense. And the big thing for me is that he was very good last year in a bad offense.
Yeah.
So
I think the offense is better. It's not a lot better. But
can he, improve on what he did last year? I'm going to say no. Just because I think their offense might be slightly better, but I think what he did last year was the ceiling of what you can get in the Dolphins offense with where you're at. If they don't draft Tua, or they don't draft Herbert, or they don't draft Jalen Hurd, or they don't draft any quarterback, and they just stick with the trash cans they got, then you're going to be sitting there looking at a guy who finished as a wide receiver 7, and that's the high end of what you can get from Devontae Parker in that bad offense. So I think for me, you can expect a regression from Devontae Parker. He's not going to produce at the same level he did last year, and for me, you know what I mean? I had to put him at 20 on my list just because, there isn't that wide open, path to, getting fantasy points automatically. You know what I mean? He just doesn't have the opportunity to really put up a wide receiver 7 performance again. I could see wide receiver 14, 15, 16 around that range. But I'm just playing it safe on Parker at this point. Mm-hmm. There are guys that I would rather take risks on than drafting Devontae Parker. I'd even probably I ranked him ahead of him, Allen Robinson ahead of him, and I probably want Allen Robinson ahead of him.
I think we're very far off on this player.
Yeah,
because the Dolphins added 2 offensive linemen.
Yep.
Their defense is much more stacked. They added an elite corner. They added 2 linebackers, one of them Kyle Van Noy. They're good. They have 2 picks in the first round, I think. They have Pittsburgh's and theirs.
Yep.
Then they have, I don't know how, they have a lot of picks. I have to look at it. But I know they have a lot of draft picks, especially early on. Yeah. So they're going to get much better. They can even draft another offensive lineman, and now they've rebooted that offensive line completely. And if Fitzpatrick stays the quarterback, I think he'll be good. I do agree with you in the fact that if Fitzpatrick's the quarterback, he's not going to finish. Like 7 is the ceiling, which is why I have him 15. But I still think he could be a top 15 fantasy wide receiver with Ryan Fitzpatrick there.
Now,
very easily.
To give you a little perspective on Devontae Parker, he is in the 7th round, 7-12, as the 37th wide receiver off the board.
Oh yeah, see,
I think we're both on board with that.
Yeah,
I'm ranking him 20, going, I don't love him this year. But you look at literally these 2 players in complete different areas. You look at Allen Robinson, 310, Devontae Parker, 1 spot in my rankings less at 7-12, basically in the 8th round. So you're telling pick, who would you rather have?
I would rather have
Devontae Parker. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. So it's I have Allen Robinson higher because if I was sitting there in the 6th round or the 7th round and Allen Robinson and Devontae Parker were on the board, I think the Bears have a slightly better offense than the Dolphins do. And I think that I would go with Allen Robinson and if I was put in that position. But based on value right now, then you have to take Devontae Parker. There's for sure no doubt about it.
Yeah.
I mean, you have him a good 22 spots ahead of where he's getting drafted. So
I love that.
That's a good pick. You know what I mean? Especially in the 7th, 8th round. If you go heavy on running backs in the first 2-3 rounds, you're gonna be safe getting a wide receiver there.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So I already mentioned it, but I have Allen, what is it? Cortland Sutton, I'm sorry, 21. And you have 21 DJ Chark. I don't have him ranked in my top 24. I believe he might be 25 or 26.
Sure.
But tell me why you have him 21.
It might be a little bit of just he was my guy last year.
He's I loved him last year.
But no, I mean he was when Gardner. So the big thing with Chark was when Gardner Minshew was in, he was a top 12, top 13 fantasy wide receiver. They went to Nick Foles, and he was a trash can. And I think this year, I don't have Chark very high. Obviously, I have him 21, so I don't think he's going to be a top 10 fantasy wide receiver or anything like that. But with a full season of Gardner Minshew, I think Chark is the guy in that Jaguars offense. He's the number 1 receiver, so he's going to get targets. He's going to get looks. He's going to get a couple touchdowns. Yeah. I think 21 is a solid spot for Chark. Who, do you know where he finished last year? It wasn't he as high as it could have been. Yeah. Because of the Foles thing, but I think he finished around
I'm pulling it up now. Give me one second.
I don't think he finished that low.
16.
I think he was so I see him finishing around the same boat this season as well.
Right. So for me, I don't have him ranked in the top 24. I don't know that I'm not as excited about Chark as you were. And I right now he's 404.
Yeah, that's too high.
That hurts.
I'm a Chark guy, but that's too high.
So yeah, I think for me, when you look at, I love Minshew mania. He's a slinger. He likes to throw it deep. I think there is a real chance that the Jags draft a quarterback this year. There are rumors floating around that it's a Jalen Hurd or a maybe even a Justin Herbert, and that they would go out and they would make that decision to draft a quarterback. They like Minshew. Obviously, they traded Nick Foles to get him into that position. I think they probably keep their options open by drafting a quarterback just in case Minshew don't work out. Minshew wasn't a massive draft investment, so I think if he doesn't work out, they want to have a guy just in case. But we'll see what they do at the quarterback position. Assuming it's Minshew, he does like throwing to Chark, but that offense last year, the offensive coordinator was on the outs. He was going to be fired, and they decided to keep him around. And he likes to throw the football a lot, so that benefits Chark a lot. I like Chark. I don't really like the whole Jaguars offense right now. I love Minshew, but I don't like the Jaguars' whole offense. So I think maybe I'll warm on DJ Chark as the offseason goes along, but I think you might see a player that boomed in his rookie year kind of regress a little bit in his second year, and then maybe in 2021 have a breakout season where he just is a monster and a top 5 wide receiver. But as of right now, I don't think that happens this year. I think there's a lot of learning that needs to happen for this offense before it kind of grows into what we want it to be.
Yeah, I get your points. It makes sense.
Yeah.
I hope they keep Minshew and run with Minshew because Minshew mania.
Let's go.
I hope they don't draft a quarterback.
Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, I think Chark will be solid. I don't think he's going to be anything crazy, but not 4th round pick, but he'll be solid.
Right. So we already talked about Keenan Allen. There are 2 more guys that I wanted to discuss. I believe, hold on, I just want to check to see if there's anybody ahead that you had on your rankings. Yeah, I believe we talked about everybody on your list except for Tyler Lockett and AJ Green.
Yeah.
So I have AJ Green. We'll talk about AJ Green first. Why AJ Green so low with Joe Burrow and all the excitement for Burrow? Why AJ Green so low? Because I have him 22. I'm not judging. I'm just asking. I'm curious. No, I don't even know why I ranked him 22.
I might even have him lower. It's because he's 31.
607. Like it.
I do like that. Yeah. He's 31 years old. He's going to turn 32 when the season starts.
Wow.
So he's for a wide receiver.
Yeah, that's true.
That's very old, coming off a lot of injuries. He's injured every year, and he just missed a full season from a foot injury. That's not good for a wide receiver.
Nope.
Now, granted, I think he's still talented, and with Joe Burrow there, he might get looks. But the reason I don't have him higher is we don't know who Joe Burrow's guy is. What if his go-to guy is Tyler Boyd? What if it's John Ross, who people forget about, who was very, very good last year before he got injured? Yeah. Who was a former, 6th overall pick?
Yeah.
Like a few years
overall, ago. You're not talking about 6th round. He's talking about 6th in the draft.
Yeah, he's wicked talented.
His only
fast.
So
staying
fast.
on the field. But if John Ross is healthy, I think John Ross could be the main guy. Yeah.
We
don't know.
You make some very valid points.
Yeah, I think AJ Green is the favorite to be Joe Burrow's guy.
Yeah.
Because he is AJ Green, he's got the pedigree, and he's still a good receiver. But who knows? And what if Joe Burrow's not even good?
Right.
What if Joe Burrow's no better than Andy Dalton or worse?
Right.
We don't know. So
yeah, I mean, all your points are valid. I feel as though, with the rookie quarterback coming in, the uncertainty sitting there, the fact that the Bengals sucked last year offensively, they have a lot of hope for the future. You have Tyler Boyd, you have John Ross, you have AJ Green, you have a mediocre to low end offensive line. You're going to draft the number 1 overall pick, Joe Burrow, and you have Joe Mixon as your running back. So they have the pieces. To do some decent work. If they add to the offensive line, you're in a good position to do some great things offensively. And if that's the case, and AJ Green is the number 1 wide receiver, then you could see really good production. But do you know Larry Fitzgerald? You've heard that name before?
Yep.
Old man, kind of comparing him to that.
Sure.
So AJ Green will just age what did he call it? Was it an Achilles injury or a toe injury?
I think it was a toe.
Either way, foot injuries destroy receivers, and so you're kind of in a tough spot for AJ Green. I like him a lot, but I think low end wide receiver 2 is probably a safe bet for him. I think 6th round is great. You know what I mean? If I have AJ Green as my 3rd wide receiver on my team to start the season, I'm feeling good about that. I do believe that ADP will rise as the season goes along, from 607 to probably somewhere around the 4th round. That might be a hot take for people, but AJ Green's AJ Green, and there are people.
Yeah, he's the name.
There are people like my brother in our home league that will love AJ Green next year. So I agree with you on all those points. I was ranking earlier, and I'm like, why is AJ Green so low? And then I just couldn't move him up. I just couldn't do it. Hurts the soul, but I love you, AJ Green. Good years, but it's over.
Yeah. Most likely. We'll see.
So let's talk about your 23rd guy. You had AJ Green 24. Your 23rd guy to complete your rankings, and I'll talk about one more guy after that, is Tyler Lockett. You love Lockett. You love that guy.
Yeah.
And we got him at 24. I see a mass regression in that Seattle offense coming this year. And I don't know that a lot of people are seeing it coming, but Russell Wilson was highly efficient this year, way more efficient than he usually is. I think they're going to regress a little bit backwards. They love running the football. They love it. And Metcalf turned into a transformed monster in the what was it, the postseason or the end of the regular season. Like, he turned into a really good player. So I think Metcalf and Lockett could probably be put in the same conversation here. And if you if you had to choose one, I might even choose Metcalf over Lockett, just for the pure sake of they like him and they targeted him a lot more than they did Lockett.
So yeah, that's the problem. I like Lockett, and I still think Lockett is like, if Wilson's in trouble and he's scrambling in the pocket, he's looking for Tyler Lockett.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's why I have Lockett ahead of Metcalf, but they do love Metcalf, and they're going to use him a lot this year.
And Lockett's 311, bro.
And they added Philip Dorsett as well. That's too high.
15th off the board.
It's too high.
Too high.
And I do like Lockett, and I wouldn't mind him on my team again. It's just like,
yeah,
he has a ceiling, and it's not that high.
Agreed.
Like, I think he'll definitely be good. You get him on your team, and he could be a number 2 receiver, a flex guy, or a bench guy, whatever he is. But he'll be solid. Like, he's going to be good. But he's not going to be a wide receiver.
But if you're drafting him early 4th, late 2nd, late 3rd, you're going to have some issues.
I think every guy on this list, except maybe like Keenan Allen, and other than maybe like Keenan Allen because of the quarterback situation. Yeah. But even him, like, right. if I said any one of these guys finish in the top 10. Right. You probably wouldn't expect it, but you wouldn't be like shocked. I would be borderline shocked if Tyler Lockett finished in the top 10 out of all these guys we've mentioned so far.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's a consistent wide receiver too. Yeah. And I actually think if you draft him and he does turn out to be the Lockett that we normally get, or a little bit less of a version of the Lockett that we normally get, he's still a solid wide receiver too.
Oh no, absolutely.
I think I kind of look at him as a guy that you're going to draft in the 311 and you're going to get burned. He's kind of overhyped, overvalued, and people are not going to like seeing him ranked that low. You got those Lockett truthers, and they're loud. So,
yeah.
Anyway, there's one more guy, and I understand why he's getting ranked lower. To be honest with you, he'll probably get ranked lower. He made my top 24. He did not make your top 24.
He's number 25, though.
He's number 25 on your list. T.Y. Hilton, who currently getting drafted off the board at, I just wanted to clear the air first before we discuss T.Y.
Sure.
408, 21st wide receiver off the board. Too high.
A little too high.
Hilton's good. Always been good. He's never really had with Andrew Luck, he's never really had a, huge top 5 wide receiver season. Kind of in the same conversation as Lockett, where he might finish as a low end wide receiver 1, but I think his days of being a wide receiver 1 are kind of in the past.
Yeah. And
you kind of look at these last 3 guys that I ranked, AJ Green, T.Y. Hilton, and Tyler Lockett. All 3 of them I don't think can be a wide receiver 1 in 2020. So for me, I put T.Y. Hilton in the top 24 because like I said, I do think he's going to be a wide receiver 2 next year. I think he's going to be between 13 and 24. In some respect. The concern for me is Felipe Rivers and his lack of ability to throw it more than 18 yards down the field. So I think you're going to see some issues with Ty if he can kind of switch to more of a slot role or do something a little bit more efficient with instead. We saw Mike Williams, man. And how much talent Mike Williams had and how bad he was for fantasy. And I keep closing my eyes and seeing Mike Williams running down the field.
It's very similar to Mike Williams. And T.Y. Hilton is 30 years old. And he's going to turn 31 during the season. So he's not a young buck anymore. And he's a guy who relies on a lot of speed and outside his outside abilities, and Phillip Rivers just doesn't throw the ball outside. Like I don't think it's going to work too well with Hill. I'll be I mean, I could be wrong, but I have him 25, so it's not like I think he's going to be completely useless.
Right.
Like he's still going to be T.Y. Hilton if healthy. But yeah, I think with Phillip Rivers as quarterback, it's not a good fit for T.Y. Hilton. And if he is getting old and he's injury prone as well, it's just, I don't know.
I agree. Agreed. That's our top 24 right there, friends and family. That is our top 24. I'm not going to recite it again. We don't have time to do that.
No.
You'll see the full rankings soon enough.
Yeah.
But that'll do it for this episode of the Fantasy Champions Fantasy Football Podcast. Wide receiver rankings are over. We have one group left. Tight ends. Good luck.
Oh boy.
Good luck to us. Don't forget to check out our website, thefantasychampions.com. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. And we'll talk to you on Tuesday, Fantasy Champs.
Peace out.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Champions Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes and YouTube and follow us on Twitter @TheFFChamps.